It begins in the quiet, not the kind of quiet that soothes, but the kind that confronts. That moment when you're alone with yourself, no distractions, no applause, no validation, just the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are and who you pretend to be. And in that silence, one question echoes louder than all. Are you in control or are you being controlled? We live in a world intoxicated by comfort, seduced by convenience, paralyzed by pleasure, a culture that celebrates spontaneity and ridicules structure. We scroll, swipe, indulge, always reacting, never choosing, always chasing the next dopamine hit, never mastering the source of our power. But the truth, the inconvenient, untweetable truth is this: discipline is the gateway drug to freedom. Not hustle porn, not hustle harder, not do what you love. Discipline, ruthless, uncompromising, focused. It is the master key that unlocks every chained door you've been rattling your whole life. Without it, your goals are just fantasies dressed in motivational quotes. With it, you become untouchable. You think freedom is doing what you want, when you want, how you want? That's chaos with lipstick. That's a lie the undisciplined whisper to themselves in the dark. Real freedom, true freedom is earned. It's paid for with early mornings, delayed gratification, and showing up when no one claps. Freedom is waking up and doing what's necessary, not what feels good. Freedom is living by design, not default. And the price? Discipline. Edison didn't stumble into invention by waiting for the muse. He said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." The man failed 1,000 times to birth the light bulb, not because he enjoyed failing, but because he was possessed by discipline. A man consumed by a vision, but carried forward by daily, consistent, meticulous effort. Walt Disney? He went bankrupt, rejected, laughed out of rooms. But day after day, frame after frame, he kept drawing, kept building, kept believing. Why? Because he had a dream? Yes, but more importantly, because he had discipline. And discipline makes dreamers dangerous. You see, belief is the spark, vision is the map, but discipline is the vehicle that gets you there. You can chant affirmations, visualize your ideal life, build vision boards until your fingers bleed, but without discipline, they are just static on a screen. And the universe, it does not respond to static. It responds to signal. Clear, focused, consistent energy aimed like a laser, backed by action. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in motion. It is saying to the world, I will not betray myself. When you live undisciplined, you're not just wasting time, you're robbing yourself. You are complicit in your own stagnation. You are saying, I'm okay with average. And average? It's a slow poison. It doesn't kill your body, it kills your fire. Abraham Lincoln, a man born in a log cabin, raised in poverty, self-educated by candlelight, not because it was romantic, but because it was necessary. Every ounce of progress he made was forged through discipline. He didn't wait for motivation. He didn't ask for ease. He demanded greatness from himself day after day after day. And when the storm of civil war came, who else but a man of discipline could carry the weight of a nation on his shoulders? Discipline is not about motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It's fickle. It's fireworks, loud, pretty, and gone in seconds. Discipline is the forge. It is what remains when motivation abandons you. It is the quiet decision to rise before the sun, to train when it hurts, to write when you're uninspired, to build when no one sees. It is the spine of all greatness. And let's be honest, you already know what to do. You don't need more information. You need execution. You need to do the hard thing, the boring thing, the thing that scares you. You need to show up when it's easier to hide, to finish when it's easier to quit, to say no when it's easier to indulge. That is discipline. That is the battlefield where freedom is won. Because if you don't master yourself, someone or something else will. Your phone, your vices, your past, your excuses, your fear. Every moment you surrender to weakness, you're handing over the reins of your life to something unworthy. And here's the twist. Comfort is not neutral. It's a predator. It doesn't just slow you down, it owns you. And every time you choose comfort over growth, you shrink. We were not designed for passive existence. We were built for struggle, forged for expansion, wired to grow. You are the descendant of warriors, builders, creators, kings and queens, people who faced storms, climbed mountains, fought darkness, and you were born to do the same. But your weapons are not swords and shields. They are consistency, clarity, commitment, and above all, discipline. You see, there is a difference between existing and living, and the difference is not found in wealth or fame or applause. The difference is found in whether you chose your life or let life choose for you. The undisciplined wake up and drift pulled by the tide of circumstance. The disciplined wake up and drive anchored in mission, marching toward vision, rain or shine. Discipline is not just the secret to success, it is the soil in which every legacy grows. Look at any icon, Carnegie, Ford, Jobs, Mandela. The world remembers them not for their luck, but for their relentless dedication. They didn't dabble, they devoted. They didn't dabble in habits, they bled for them. And that bleeding, that sacrifice, it wasn't suffering, it was sacred. Because when you are disciplined, even your suffering becomes meaningful. You no longer run from pain, you use it. Pain becomes a compass, discomfort becomes a teacher, and setbacks, merely staircases. You cannot live an extraordinary life with ordinary habits. You cannot become great while behaving like everyone else. Greatness demands a price. And the currency? Daily. Disciplined. Action. So ask yourself, what are you choosing every morning? Chaos or command? Drift or direction? Are you building your future or breaking it? Because every small decision compounds. Every just this once is a seed, and your garden, your life will reflect what you've planted. And here's the hard truth most won't say. Freedom is not free. Freedom is not the absence of rules. It is the presence of principles. Freedom is not the right to do anything. It's the power to do what's right, even when it's hard. That means saying no when your body says yes. That means showing up when your mind screams stop. That means standing alone when no one claps, no one understands, no one believes. That is the quiet, brutal, liberating truth. Discipline is love wearing armor. And if you don't have it, you will be ruled. Ruled by your cravings, by your moods, by the expectations of others, by the algorithm, by the lowest version of yourself. But if you do have it, nothing can touch you. You become sovereign. You become your own king, your own queen, your own revolution. Let the world chase hacks. Let them chase trends. Let them chase shortcuts. You chase mastery. You chase depth. You chase a life of deliberate design, because you are not here to be common. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to become. And becoming demands everything. And here's what they won't teach you in school, won't whisper in the viral reels, won't sell you in feel-good books. Discipline is lonely. It's not glamorous. It's not instantly rewarding. It doesn't give you applause after day one. It strips you down. It puts you in the arena, bloodied, bruised, exposed, and it asks, will you keep going when no one is watching? This is the difference between amateurs and masters. Amateurs want results. Masters crave the process. They find beauty in the repetition, divinity in the monotony. They brush their teeth with habits, bathe in routine, drink discipline like holy water. Not because they're robots, but because they respect the power of momentum. Do you know how empires are built? Not in battles, not in explosions of glory, but in bricks laid day after day, with dirty hands and tired bones. That's discipline. It's laying a brick when you're uninspired. It's writing one more line when the words don't come. It's lacing up your shoes when your legs say no. Discipline is the invisible architecture behind every visible success. Muhammad Ali once said, I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. That is the cost. That is the contract. And make no mistake, greatness is a contract. One written not in ink, but in consistency. When you realize this, when you embrace this, everything changes. You stop seeking the path of least resistance. You start hunting discomfort. You stop waiting to feel like it because you understand that feelings are passengers, not drivers. You stop negotiating with your weakness. You stop pleading with your potential. And instead, you command it. You rise not because it's easy, but because it's yours to do. Because you are tired of watching your future beg for your presence. Because you are sick of being a prisoner in your own life. Because you've tasted the bitterness of regret, and you'd rather drown in the sweat of discipline than sip one more drop of that poison. Look in the mirror. That face you see? That is your only competition. That is your only savior. That is your greatest threat. And how you treat that person, not with comfort, but with conviction, will determine everything. The world outside does not owe you success. It does not care how badly you want it. It does not bend for intention, it responds to execution. Every dream you have is locked behind a door, and the key isn't luck, it isn't genius, it isn't charm, it's discipline. Daily, brutal, honest discipline. You don't get to write a legacy in your spare time. You don't get to live a masterpiece on borrowed hours. You must claim it inch by inch, hour by hour. Discipline is how you earn your future in advance. How you audition for the life you say you want. It is not one decision. It is 1,000. Made when you're tired, when you're bored, when you're scared, when you're unseen. That is the battlefield. That is where legends are made. Think of the people you admire. The ones who carved light out of darkness. The ones who rose when the world tried to bury them. Do you think they waited to be inspired? Do you think they checked if the timing was right? Number. They moved. Through the pain. Through the fear. Through the noise. Discipline is spiritual. It's sacred. It's the act of telling your soul, I trust you enough to keep showing up, even when the reward is not immediate. Because it will come. Oh, it will come. But not in the form you expect. It'll come in the form of peace, the peace that blooms when you're no longer at war with your own potential. It'll come in the form of strength, the strength that rises when you no longer fold under pressure. It'll come in the form of freedom, the freedom to live unshackled from addiction, to ease, to validation, to approval. That is what you're really chasing, isn't it? Freedom? Then earn it, not once, but daily. Every day you show up, you send a signal to the universe, I am ready, I am willing, I am worthy. And that signal, it echoes, it compounds. It builds into a thunder that no one can ignore. But it begins in the small things. Don't look for discipline in the dramatic. Look for it in the everyday. The glass of water instead of the soda. The journal entry instead of the scroll. The hard conversation instead of the silent resentment. The focused hour instead of another excuse. These are not small decisions, they are seismic. You want to change your life? Change your discipline? You want to master your fate? Master your habits? Because one day, you will wake up, and your life will be a reflection of what you repeated, not what you hoped. And in that moment, you will either be proud or regretful. You will either be free or ruled. So decide now, who do you serve, the version of you that wants to escape discomfort, or the version of you that's waiting to be born through it? Because freedom is not on the other side of motivation, it's on the other side of discipline. And discipline isn't about self-denial, it's about self-command. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And I will not betray that for anything, not even myself. You don't need more time. You don't need more chances. You don't need a sign. You need to begin. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Right now is the moment that separates the average from the awakened. And if you're ready, if you're truly ready, then say it with your actions. No more waiting. No more excuses. No more surrendering to weakness. Discipline is the drug. Freedom is the high. And mastery is your birthright. And when you taste mastery, even for a moment, you'll never want to go back. Because nothing compares to the fire that burns inside a soul no longer at war with its potential. Nothing tastes sweeter than the quiet pride of doing what needed to be done. Not for a paycheck, not for a pat on the back, but because you said you would. And in a world drowning in broken promises, that self-trust is your superpower. You start to realize something profound, something that shifts your entire relationship with time, with effort, with life itself. It's this: discipline is the ultimate act of love. Love for the person you are becoming, love for the future you want to live in, love for the strength buried deep inside you that refuses to be silenced any longer. You stop chasing ease. You stop idolizing shortcuts. You begin to honor the struggle. You begin to cherish the grind. Because the grind is not the enemy. The grind is the sculptor. The grind is what sharpens you, defines you, reveals you. People say they want purpose, they want power, they want passion, but they overlook the bridge that leads to all three: discipline. Without it, purpose is fog, power is fleeting, and passion burns out in the cold wind of inconsistency. And listen, you will be tempted. The voices will come, the seductive whisper of just this once. You deserve a break. No one will notice. But discipline? Discipline is the voice that roars back. I will notice. I will remember. I will carry this with me. Because that's the truth. Every decision echoes. Every moment of discipline becomes a memory you stand on. And every moment of surrender becomes a crack in your foundation. The question isn't whether you'll fall. The question is what you've built beneath you when you do. You see, discipline is the silent architect of confidence. The more you keep your word to yourself, the louder your presence becomes. You walk different, speak different. You no longer need to prove you embody. You no longer chase worthiness, you radiate it. That's what happens when you master discipline. You don't become robotic. You don't become rigid. You become free. Free from guilt, free from fear, free from the chains of inconsistency that kept you spinning your wheels for years. You walk into rooms with the weight of 1,000 mornings when you rose before the doubt did. You carry the thunder of nights when you chose growth over comfort. You become the storm not in chaos, but in clarity. And clarity? That's the next gift discipline gives. Because the more consistent you are, the less confused you become. You know who you are. You know what you're building. And when the noise comes, and it will come, you stay rooted. The world tries to distract you with 1,000 voices. But when you live with discipline, one voice rises above them all, your own, clear, unshakable, true. And it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter who doubted you, who underestimated you, who left you behind. Discipline is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about talent. It doesn't care about privilege. It responds to action. Every day is a new audition, and the role is simple: architect of your own life. You don't need the perfect plan. You need consistent execution. You don't need overnight transformation. You need today owned, fully, unapologetically. Because when today is owned, tomorrow bows to you. Start small, start ugly, start tired, but start. Build momentum like a sacred fire. Protect it, feed it, guard it from the winds of doubt and distraction. Because once it burns, once it really burns, it becomes unstoppable. And when that fire spreads, when your discipline becomes a force that radiates into your work, your relationships, your soul, you become a lighthouse, not just for yourself, but for others. You show the world what it looks like to live awake, to live on purpose. Because here's the secret: discipline isn't just about you. It's about what you unlock in others. Your consistency gives them permission. Your strength gives them courage. Your fire lights theirs. You stop being just a person. You become a movement. But none of this happens without the decision. The one you make now, not tomorrow, not next month, now. Will you master discipline, or will you be ruled? Will you rise and claim your life, or will you watch others live the one you were too afraid to build? This is not poetry. This is not hype. This is the blueprint. This is the truth. You want freedom? Then earn it in the quiet. Forge it in the fire. Carve it with your bare hands out of the stone that others called too hard. Because it's not too hard. You're just not used to bleeding for what matters. yet, but you will be. And once you are, the world, the small world that mocked you, doubted you, ignored you, it will no longer have power because you will have built something it cannot touch. Self-mastery. And with that mastery comes peace, not the peace of passivity, but the peace of power, the stillness that comes when you are no longer chasing because you've become. That is the promise of discipline. That is the high no drug can match. That is the freedom they can never take away. And that freedom, it isn't loud. It doesn't parade through the streets or announce itself with fanfare. It moves differently. It walks quietly, but carries thunder in its chest. The kind of thunder that can only come from a soul that has looked itself in the eye, faced its weaknesses, and refused to flinch. Discipline teaches you to do what most will not so that you can become what most will never be. It's not a trait, it's not a mood, it's a decision, a declaration, an oath to yourself that says, no matter how I feel, no matter how long it takes, I will rise, I will endure, I will conquer. And the magic of it all is this: when you stop being a slave to your impulses, when you break the cycle of giving in, you don't just change your schedule, you change your identity. You go from the person who tries to the person who is. You no longer have to hype yourself up to be disciplined. It becomes your nature, your default, your truth. Think about that. Imagine waking up and knowing, not hoping that you'll follow through, that you will take action, that you will keep going no matter what obstacles arise. That is not motivation. That is not a temporary spark. That is freedom forged in the furnace of discipline. Most people never taste that. Most people live in reaction, bouncing from crisis to crisis, excuse to excuse, always waiting for a better time. But the disciplined, they don't wait. They don't wish. They create. They take what they have, where they are, and begin. Not because it's perfect, but because they know this secret. Action brings clarity, repetition builds certainty, and consistency becomes destiny. You become a force the world must reckon with, because when you live with discipline, your environment starts to bend to you. You no longer adapt to weakness, you command strength. You no longer absorb distractions, you repel them. You no longer seek direction from the outside, you embody it. And here's the most beautiful part. You start to trust yourself. That quiet, unshakable trust, the kind that doesn't need to shout. It's the trust that comes from promises kept in the dark. From the extra rep when no one saw. From the journal entry after a breakdown. From the tears you turned into fuel. That trust becomes your anchor. People ask, how do I get confidence? Here's the answer. Do hard things. Do them often. Do them when you don't feel like it. Because confidence is not built in front of the crowd. It's built in solitude. When the lights are off, when the world is asleep, when your demons come knocking and you choose once again not to answer. Discipline isn't glamorous, but it's holy. It turns pain into power, time into legacy, struggle into spirit. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, not by magic, but by mastery. Daily mastery. Not once in a while brilliance, but everyday courage. And yes, it hurts sometimes. You will be misunderstood. You will outgrow people who cling to mediocrity. You will walk alone for seasons. But what you build in those lonely hours, that quiet empire of the soul, will shine brighter than any spotlight could. Because no applause is louder than your own self-respect. And the world? It won't always understand. It will tempt you, mock you, offer easier roads. But the disciplined don't flinch. They've been in the fire too long. They've made peace with the price. They know that the cost of discipline is temporary, but the cost of regret is forever. So when the doubt comes, and it will, when your body aches, when your will trembles, when the old voice says, just quit, remember this. Every drop of sweat, every early morning, every painful no, every disciplined choice, they are all writing your story, etching it into time. And one day, someone will read that story, look into your eyes and whisper, because of you, I didn't give up. And in that moment, you'll understand this was never just about you. It was about becoming the person you were always meant to be, so you could show others that it's possible. So now the choice is yours, as it always has been. Will you live by default or by design? Will you bow to your impulses or will you rise and rule them? Because discipline isn't the enemy of freedom, it is the birthplace of it, the womb from which all greatness is born. And if you want to be free, truly, wildly, unapologetically free, then bleed for it now. Because in the end, when the curtain falls and the credits roll, the only question that will matter is, did you master yourself? Or did you waste your one chance at greatness waiting to feel ready? Choose now. Choose discipline. And walk, not crawl, into the fire. Because that fire is how legends are forged. That fire is how kings are crowned. That fire is how you become. And the world is waiting.